My Little Pony is unironically one of my favorite TV shows. The characters, the plot, the episodes, they all are just amazing to me. And trust and believe that the My Little Pony merch collection I have going on right now will continue to have additions to it until the day I die. Regardless of my devotion to My Little Pony, there is one episode that every time I restart my My Little Pony rewatch, I think to myself, oh my gosh, when will this be over? And this episode is Over a Barrel. And to me, I would define this as My Little Pony's most controversial episode. This episode was released March 25th of 2011 and is this 22nd episode in the first season. And the reason why I think this episode is so controversial is because it goes over the issue of colonizing, and it is so crazy, and every time I rewatch it, I am just dumbfounded because the way they go about it is all wrong. So today, we're going to jump into it and explain how crazy this episode is. The episode starts off with the gang in a train going to visit Applejack's family in their town of Appaloosa. On the way there, they run into a buffalo stampede, and it interferes with the train that they are riding. The group splits up where one end of the group, Rainbow Dash, Spike, and Pinkie Pie, end up far away from Appaloosa, while the rest of the group pleads for help once they enter Appaloosa. Here is when we meet Applejack's cousin. And once he hears about the buffalo, he is in horror. He says that for no reason at all, the buffalo have a plot to steal and cut down the apple trees that the Apple family had worked so hard to plant. Then we see the other end of the group, where they are talking with the buffalo about why they stampeded, and the buffalo reveal that the reason that they stampede those grounds is because it is not the Apple family's. It is revealed that the land is actually not the Apple family's, and that it belongs to the buffalo. Then the buffalo reveals that the settler ponies, and yes, he does call them the settler ponies, he says that they have made it impossible for them to stomp on their stampeding grounds. In the show, he says that it's a sacred tradition for them to run the trail every year, and the ponies took over the land without even asking their permission. Which is crazy that this is happening in the My Little Pony universe, but it only gets crazier from here. After this, Rainbow Dash becomes the ally of the year and is infuriated by this.
The land is theirs!
When they reunite with the group, Rainbow Dash and Applejack get into an argument, with Rainbow Dash saying how the land is the buffalo's, and Applejack arguing, complaining that there's nowhere else for their family to plant their trees. And after a solo song from Pinkie Pie, the two groups decide to fight. The Buffalo Chief says that if the trees aren't cut down, they will stampede through the forest and through the whole town. So the day of the fight comes, and the settler ponies all put on their biggest hats in the world, and they all go out to fight. During the fight, an apple pie gets thrown at the buffalo leader's face. The buffalo leader gets a taste of this pie, and this is where the episode turns crazy, because the decision that he makes from here just does not make any sense. So the buffalo tries the pie, and it's like, wow, this is so good. You know what? You can take the land. We don't need our sacred tradition. As long as you gave us apples and pies, then you can take the land. We don't mind. What the craziest part about this episode, and what gets me the most, is the last minute of the show, where Twilight is writing her letter to Princess Celestia about what lesson of friendship she learned. And she tells Princess Celestia she learned about understanding and compromise, which is insane because this deal is obviously very unfair and unequal, and it is insane to me that this episode even aired, because historically speaking, this is not it. And when I say it's not it, I don't mean that it's not historically accurate, because it is. There was a lot of unfair compromises between settlers and Native Americans. I find it so shocking because while it shows both perspectives, it ultimately takes the side of the settlers. By the way, can we take a second to think about the fact that the buffalo are supposed to represent Native Americans and the zebras in the show are supposed to represent African people? Does that mean everyone else in Ponyville is supposed to be white? Like everyone? But moving on, this episode is generally so crazy because it obviously makes a hero out of the definite villains in history and tries to rewrite the idea of the settlers being in the right, which is absolutely crazy, knowing what the settlers in real life have done. When this episode came out, it was generally reviewed and received as an amazing episode because of the amazing jokes that were told in it, such as the joke on the scene in the train.
Do not think she's a tree. Did you say she was a tree? Not exactly. You know, she's not a tree, right?
And because of the song You Gotta Share, You Gotta Care by Pinkie Pie, which was pretty iconic when it came out. And because of those jokes and songs, the entire message of the episode kind of went under the rug, and people kind of ignored it because of all the funny stuff that was going on. But that kind of disturbs me, and I hope that now the fandom can recognize that this episode is genuinely crazy. Also, the title, Over a Barrel, is a phrase that implies that someone is in a helpless position to somebody's mercy. I mean, the title speaks for itself. And when I say they make the settlers the heroes of this episode, I mean it in the way that they make this sound like a fair deal.
That wasn't the message of my song at all.
A sacred tradition in exchange for apple pie and just apples. Are you kidding me? Did you agree with the narrative they put into this story? And do you think that it's justified by the jokes and the songs that were put in here or not? You guys can let me know in the comments. But thank you so much for watching. Bye.